Let's talk about read CSV function in pandas. Agenda for today is to give you short description about this function, to explain you why and when we could use, to give you some really basic examples because most of the people are use this function exactly in this way, and to give you some tricky examples because this function it's really powerful and we could do a lot of things with it. This video is good for all of you. Doesn't matter that you don't have any experience with pandas or you have some experience but you want to learn something new. If you like this video, if you want to be part of my community, don't wait, click on the subscribe button and not forget to click on bell button because that is the way if you want to be informed for new interesting videos. Let's start with the actual part and with our action plan. What is read CSV function in pandas? That is the function when we use if we want to read CSV files. CSV format is one of the famous formats that a lot of teams and companies store them information. For that reason, this function is really famous and useful. We use this function exactly in this scenario if you want to reach our data, and this data is exactly in CSV format. Here you could see the whole parameters that this function use, and regarding of the parameters we could do some extra stuff exactly in this function, exactly in the read part. First we need to have pandas on our computer. Before that you should have Python, to have Jupyter Notebook if you want to do exactly the same steps as me to train yourself in the meantime. Command that we use to install pandas, it's pip install pandas. The way that we import that library, it's import pandas spd. Why spd? Because in next step when we try to use something from this library, we need to write first the library name, then dot, and the function that we want to get from that library. And because pd is shorter than pandas, most of the cases we put this alias to be easier for you in next step. First and really basic usage of read CSV function is to put just one parameter, that is the location of our file that we want to read. This location could be on our machine, on our computer, as in this case that is just a path that I use from my machine, from my computer to reach this CSV file. That is the actual result, and how this data is represented in data frame when we read it from CSV file. Another nice way is to get data directly from some website based on the URL address that store this CSV file. It's not necessarily need to download the file and after that to load it. We could directly reach it and get it from some outside place like a website and URL address. If you didn't know that, now you already know it. These are maybe the famous two scenarios that most of the people used, and like a next step I will start to show you some tricks, some extra stuff and some extra parameters that you could find out like something new, interesting and so on. Here it's an example how we could use this function with parameter header none and to remove the whole headers that you already saw them here. Just to remove them, and in them place you will see the index numbers. Next example is how we could rename our columns to remove the header and put custom header with parameter names which is equal to list that contains all of the names that we want to be put it on our data frame, on our data. Here is specific that we should put the same number of columns as they are in our CSV file and in the same logical order like logical order in our CSV file. The next example, sorry, it's parameter use calls, which we use if we want to grab and load only part of the columns. If we need to work with 2, 3, 4, 5 columns from our CSV file, we don't need to load the whole file, and after that to drop the columns, we just could use this parameter and to grab only these columns that we actually need and we will use in the next step. Next example, it's how we could set the type, which is a column type. If our default column types that we get from CSV file it's incorrect for us and we need to change it, we need to use for our purpose with another formatting, that it's really nice way how we could cast and modify the column type exactly in the read part, and after that just to use this columns data for our purposes and to don't have this extra step that cast this data when we already grab with original way to say. And last example, it's encoding parameter. When we create a file, I will not be focused how we create a file, just to say that we have file that it's with not default encoding, it's with some other encoding. Default it's UTF-8, and when we try to read the file, we read it with default encoding, which it is UTF-8, when we don't set any value for this parameter encoding. Because here this file is generated with another encoding, we cannot read it. As you could see here, the error exactly told to us exactly that. And when we read the file, we need to read and change default encoding with the real encoding. And when we run with the real encoding, this encoding that the file is created, then we could reach the data and see the correct value for it. And like the last step before to finish with our video for today, I have one challenge for you. Try to find out some test data from internet. There are a lot of sites that share CSV files with test data, and the challenge is to find out one of these sites and to read a file from this site and to represent the data in data frame. If you have any questions, just put a comment below this video and I will answer you. If you want to speak about in more details, we could create additional video for more details. Thank you for the watching, keep learning, and we'll see you next time.